What's good with y'all, man? Welcome back to another video. In this video I'm going to go over how to make experimental R&B samples for someone like Brent Faiyaz. And yeah, before I get this started, go check out my Instagram at prodbyeville. And yeah, let's jump right into the video. So the sample is made at 124 BPM. The first thing I want to go over is just save every project that you make. Even if you don't think it's fire, you should still save the project, because this project right here, started cooking it up a couple days ago, didn't like how it was sounding, and I came back to it a couple days later and thought it was fire, and I finished it. The first thing I started with was this piano from Decent Sampler. It's just a lounge piano, and it's a completely free plugin. I believe it's from Piano Book. And this is what the piano sounds like with all the effects on. It's super simple chord progression. It's just an F sharp major down to an A sharp minor, and then I just added some other notes to stack on top to make it more full. And halfway into this first chord right here, I just duplicated it like that and pitched it up an octave, and then I strummed it to create this little flourish right here. Then I just added these two extra notes, and I pretty much did the same exact thing for this last chord right here. I just took it, pitched it up an octave, and that's pretty much it. For the effects, it's just an EQ, Evolve compressor, retro color, and another EQ. And pretty much what I did after that was take this piano melody and play it through my speakers, and then record my speakers with my mic back into the DAW. This process is called remiking, I'm pretty sure, and it creates a very real and like vintage sounding sample, especially with the Evolve compressor on. What I did was record it 3 separate times. The first time I put my mic to the left side of my speakers, then I put my mic in the middle, and then I put my mic on the right side of the speakers. And for the processing, there's nothing on it except for the left side I pan to the left, and to the right side I pan to the right, and then I routed it to a mixer track, added a soothe, a decimort, an EQ, and a vintage verb on this room preset, and I turned the decay and mix down a lot. And pretty much what this sounds like now is like a very washed out vintage sounding sample. And after hearing this, I was super inspired to make this as an intro and then drop it into the real sample that sounds a lot more clean. So on top of this, I just added some vocals that are extremely washed out and you almost can't really hear them. And this is what it sounds like with all the effects on. And if you guys want a breakdown of how I record my samples, go check out one of my previous videos. I'll attach it on screen right now. But for the processing, it's just an auto tune, and then I route it to another mixer track and have EQs, alter boys on these settings, a decimort, vintage verb, and a couple other things. But like I said, you guys can go check out that video. I explain it in a lot better detail. And this is pretty much my basic chain. I'll change a couple things here and there for each sample. And then the last thing I added was this like tape texture and stop and start. And pretty much what I did was take my mic and record my Tascam Portastudio, and I just recorded it starting and stopping a tape, and this is what it sounds like. And again, I really want to make this intro like washed out and vintage sounding and dirty sounding. And I think that this adds a little bit more texture and a little bit more context to the intro. Now this is what the full intro sounds like. Also, some more sauce right here. Silence is a huge thing in sample making and just making music in general. So I cut out all these sounds at the very end and added this stop from my Portastudio. And then it drops into this clean, lush sounding melody, which I'll go and break down right now. This is like the main part of the melody. I pretty much reintroduced this piano back in, but just the regular DAW version of it, not recorded, not remiked. Then I found this one shot from Ain Sounds, and it's just like a pad. And what I did was turn the crossfade all the way up so that it'll play continuously when I just hold down the note. And this is what it sounds like. All I I did was literally just copy the chords. And then for the effects, added this EQ, another EQ, very similar EQs actually. Thermal on this legalism preset, and I'm pretty sure this is from a Mullen Made It kit. And then I added a sound shifter to pitch it up by 12 semitones. Then what I did was arm this track right here, clicking this button and hit Alt R, which records it. And then I brought it into the playlist, pitched it back down an octave to its original pitch, routed it and put an EQ on it. And this is what it sounds like. This adds lots of movement and like some texture to the sample. Next thing I added was this bass from Contact. This is just the Rickenbacker bass on the Palm Muted preset. I space out a lot of these notes just to give it more rhythm and some more movement. And for the effects, there's just nothing on it, it's just pan mono. These are what all those sounds sound like together. After I added all those melodies, I wanted to add some more textures and some more ear candy. So first thing I started with was this perk loop from Lewis kit. Still don't know how to say your name. It just had some EQ and some reverb on it. Then I added this synth phrase from a Ain Sounds kit, and it just has the EQ, vintage verb, delay, a lot of delay, and a pan man. This is what that sounds like. Very lush sounding. Then I added this vocal from that same Lewis kit, and it pretty much has the same effects as the other vocals, except there's no auto-tune, has a little bit less stuff on it, and the altar boy is slightly different. And I just pitched up the vocal by 12 semitones. Then I just chopped it to sound like this. It is a lot different from the original vocal. Then the last things was all these textures, and this is what they all sound like. Pretty much all these textures have some reverb and a little bit of delay on them. So yeah, this is what the second section sounds like. I'm going to play it with the transition as well. And now I'm going to break down this last section of the sample. So the first thing I did was add in this E piano from Analog Lab, and it's the DX Keys preset, and there's no effects on it. And then I just rendered it out to save some CPU because Analog Labs absolutely hates my computer. And again, this is just following the same exact chords. And then what I layered on top of that was this Labs piano, completely free piano. And for the effects, it's just an EQ. And how I mixed these was just I panned one to the left and one to the right to give each its respected room. Then I added this super simple bass from a Malloy kit. For the effects, it's just a decapitator. And with everything together, this is what it sounds like. And yeah, on top of that, I just add a couple more textures back in from the first section. And then how I transitioned the second section to the third section was I added this reverse reverb effect. This can be achieved by pulling up a reverb on the master and having a long decay. And then what I do is pull up an Edison, have it record it into, and then drag the recording out of Edison onto the playlist. And then I just reverse it and normalize it. And this is what it sounds like. And then finally on the master, I added this sound shifter and pitched it up by 2 semitones. Added this EQ to cut out some of the low mids and mids. Then I added this gain plugin from Kilohertz. And I just added 8 decibels of gain because it was a pretty quiet sample. Then I added a soothe just to tamper down some frequencies. And yeah, this is what the final sample sounds like. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the sample. Hope you guys learned something. I feel like I dropped a lot of cool sauce and cool little gems in this video. This is a little bit of a different sample than what I've broken down on this channel previously. And I really appreciate everybody who made it to the end of the video. Again, go check out my Instagram at prodbyeville. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I'll see y'all in the next one.